it's Rachel and I am back for another tutorial. We are working on the special blocks for Tumbling Cosmos. I have already posted one video that was for the split or divided hexagon block, so make sure you check that out. This one is just called hexagon blocks. So it's a full hexagon in the middle, and then we have the half hexagons around the sides. I did do a video about how to base these and make sure your ears all go the right way so that they all slide in together. So make sure you do check that out. But in this video, we're going to be stitching this puppy together. So the way I'm going to tackle this is I'm going to actually stitch one side down to the hexagon, then across on the hexagon, and then one side up. So I'm going to try and get at least two sides done without cutting my thread. I don't really like cutting my threads. What I do is I knot at the beginning when I start my thread, knot at the end of side, keep going. When I get to the new side, I just keep going. I don't knot at the beginning there because I haven't started my thread. I knot at the end, and then I knot at the end again and cut it off, and that's how I do that. This allows me, so I knot at the end of this line, say I screw up right here and I have to unstitch, I can unstitch and there's a knot here. Or when I knot here, say I screw up here, I can unstitch and there's a knot there. I don't do one at the beginning of the side because it's just an extra knot to have to undo if I do screw up. So that's kind of my way of doing it. So that's gonna be my first piece, is kind of three sides there. All my next pieces are gonna be two sides. So we're gonna go hexagon up, hexagon up, hexagon up, hexagon up. Okay, so that's how we're gonna do that. Actually, you know what, I might not do this. So I said I would go down and then around and up. I think I'm just gonna do the L shape, so two sides. We're gonna start with hexagon. I like starting with hexagons because it's, when you stitch these together, if you're off and you end up with a gap around the hexagon, it's not the end of the world, but it does kind of make it a little harder to kind of piece everything in. So I do like my first stitching to be on the hexagon. So that's what I'm gonna do, is an L, hexagon up, all the way around, and even when I get to my last one, it'll be hexagon and then up. So that should be fairly straightforward. Again, I do like to match my thread as best I can. Obviously we have a lot of colors going on in this block, but I chose a light teal to match the teal, which is the majority of that thread. The way I do my thread is I do not knot. I don't put a knot on the tail. I don't double my thread. This is a single thread, so you can see my tail ends here. You can see that. And then I have the thread that I'm actually going to be stitching with beyond that. I keep my tail nice and long. I double it over so it's almost doubled, but I don't actually stitch double. I stitch single. And what that means is as I'm going, I will actually pull my thread a little bit to make my tail shorter and shorter. So as I use this thread, I make my tail shorter and shorter. And that is another way I talked about in the last video about thread breakage. If you're getting thread breakage, that could be part of the problem too if you're not moving your thread. If you're constantly moving your thread along the needle, you're not creating one weak spot. So if I were to do, say, my thread really short and have it like this the whole time, and I knot at the end, so, or even if I marry this so it's nice and short, you're creating a weak spot because it's constantly wearing in this spot. So by keeping my tail longer and constantly moving it, I'm never creating one weak spot, if that makes sense. So that's kind of a little tip that I have for you. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So you can pick any of these to start. So you just, again, I don't have a great, explanation, although these are the same shape. So you just want to make sure you kind of use your fingers, make sure it's really lined up. If I was off, you can kind of tell by touching it that's not. So the nice thing about having these similar shapes, it's kind of easy to line them up. So we're going to use our smaller Sew Tight to hold this in place. I can tell I kind of knocked it. They're small, so be careful. I knocked it out of spot. So again, the way I was going to do this is go across, and then we're going to attach the next one going up, and that's the way we're going to do that. Wait a minute, is that what I want to do? Cross and up. Yeah, but that's attaching all the wings. Ooh, that might not be what I want to do. So I want to think about this because I want to do my bottoms all first actually. And if I go across and up, then technically I'm attaching this first before I attach my bottom. How do I do that? So I'd have to go actually, okay, so I would have to start with one and then across. No, because that's still, How do I want to do this? All right, I guess I'm just going to take the chance and go across and up, even though that's not attaching all my bottoms first. Thinking about it way too much, but it is a method for, you know, we're going to do a bunch of these, so it's good to get a method. So we'll try this way. We'll see how it works out. If it's not really lining up right, then maybe I'll change it on the next one. So I'm going to do the first bottom, and then I'm going to attach the side. So we'll go ahead and get started here, and I'll do it in fast motion. Like I said, we're going to tie a knot at the very beginning because it's the start of my thread. I'm going to go to the end, tie a knot, and then I'm going to stitch up the next one and tie a knot at the end, and we'll cut off. So we have two sides only when we're going here. Remember, you want to do about 4 stitches per 1/4 inch. You do not need to put these stitches right on top of each other. You want to take just tiny, 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 tiny little bites. You're literally grabbing just the top 2 or 3 threads of each piece. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and get this started. All right, so I have my 2 lines stitched. Actually came out really good, so that shouldn't be too bad to do it that way. So again, it was along the hexagon, then I attached that second piece, and then I'll just keep doing that same thing. So I go along the hexagon, attach the second piece all the way around, and that will get the piece completely finished. So we'll go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like at the end. So I got my second side sewed on, and you can see this is exactly what I was thinking would happen if I don't sew the bottom first. Is when I lay this down, there is a little bit of a gap. So if I put it on white, maybe you'll see a little better. So there's a little bit of a gap because of the way that this got stitched on the side. Luckily, this is really not a big gap in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not going to bother re-sewing. Once I fold this over, you just line it up, and I'm just going to take an extra stitch in this corner where the gap starts to kind of tie it all back down. And honestly, once these papers come out, you won't even notice that difference. But that was kind of what I was worried about, so I just want to be a little more careful when I'm attaching the sides, but no big deal unless it's a huge gap. You know, if it was really wide, I probably would unstitch this and redo it. But I do like that I'm able to nicely line up my stripes, so it works out pretty good to do that side first, I guess. But I just wanted to show that. Do not fret if you end up with a little bit of a gap. Just work it out, manipulate the fabric, make it your own, make it listen to you instead of you listening to it. That's the great thing about English paper piecing. If you're machine piecing, you want to be as precise as possible because your stitches are creating your shape. With English paper piecing, the papers create your shape, so you can manipulate it a lot more, which is a really nice thing, I think. I think it actually makes it easier to do than machine stitching. So we are going to go ahead and continue on and see where we get. So this is all finished now. Looks cute. So everything is all stitched on, came together pretty easily. And there is the back side with all of our nested seams, really pretty looking. So that is block D2 for this side. And yeah, not too difficult, just a little time consuming on these, but isn't all of EPP time consuming. So that's a pretty basic one. Hopefully my video helped you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel as I do post these videos pretty sporadically. So YouTube will let you know when I post a new one if you subscribe. And I hope this video was a help, and look for my third video that will be for the last special block in the Tumbling Cosmos pattern. Thanks everybody.